Hey everybody, it's Steve and welcome to the 12 Days of Soul Care Storytelling Edition, Day 12, and you made it. Thank you so much for being with me. Here is a little excerpt from Shakespeare's Macbeth. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day, to the last syllable of recorded time, and all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Well, that's one way of looking at it, and I have to confess that sometimes I can feel pretty bleak like that, and even the writer of Ecclesiastes said, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. It feels that way sometimes. And there's truth there, but that's not the whole truth. That's not the good news of the gospel. That's not the good news of God who is still writing your story today. And that's the big idea I want to leave you with as we wrap up. Your story is still unfolding. If you're alive to hear my voice, your story isn't over. And I don't know if you have decades, years, months, weeks, hours, or minutes to live. I don't know that about myself. I survived cancer this past year, but how many more days, years do I get? I just don't know. And so every day is a gift. That's why they call it the present. And so I want to live my life richly and intentionally and with joy and purposefully. I want to be aware of others. And I want my story to somehow be beautiful. I want my story to somehow be inspiring. And for that, I need inspiration. I need inspiration from God. And I'm encouraged by 2 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 3, which says, you and I, you are a letter from Christ written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God. God is writing your story. And I think he wants to write a beautiful story with all of its pain, with all of its loss and heartache, with all of your and my weaknesses and shortcomings. He still wants to write a beautiful story about how he walks with the imperfect in beautiful ways, and somehow we honor and glorify him. And he uses us and works through us while he's working on us. Now, I want to challenge you to specifically consider actually writing out your story, whether it's with pen and paper or on your computer or other device. However you want to write your story, I want to encourage you to actually explore your story and get some of it down for the instruction of posterity, for the touching of lives. And as you do this, I know that you will feel censored and afraid of criticism. It's not going to be, perfect. It's going to be like the cheese that just wasn't good enough. Good enough. But I want to give you a quote from Pulitzer Prize-winning novelist Jane Smiley, who wonderfully said, every first draft is perfect because all a first draft has to do is exist. So start, and then you can revise, but you can't revise what you haven't started. So write what Anne Lamott calls that shitty first draft and work with it and let it become a next draft, because the first draft is the worst draft and better version 1 than version none. So let's get started at writing out our story, even if no one ever sees it but our own eyes. A key to doing that is simply to remember the words of Miguel de Cervantes, honesty's the best policy. Tell the truth. It may be the good, the bad, or the ugly, but tell the truth. And let God give you the inspiration you need and the courage to reach into your story and tell it. And don't worry about it being grammatically correct or stylistically impressive. Worry more about being inspired by God. Now, I love what the Greeks did with this, and Stephen Pressfield talks about this in The War of Art. He talks about how the Greeks believed in the muses, and these muses were goddesses that inspired songwriters and artists and poets and storytellers. So here's a section. Here's Socrates in Plato's Phaedrus on the noble effect of heaven-sent madness. And listen to this little section. The third type of possession and madness is the possession by the muses. When this seizes upon a gentle and virgin soul, it rouses it to inspired expression in lyric and other sorts of poetry, and glorifies countless deeds of the heroes of old for the instruction of posterity. But if a man comes to the door of poetry untouched by the madness of the muses, believing that technique alone will make him a good poet, he and his sane compositions never reach perfection, but are utterly eclipsed by the performances of the inspired madman. Friends, as I tell my story and I explore it, I want to be an inspired madman. I just want to tell my truth and tell it in a way that touches lives and somehow inspires. I invite you to consider doing the same. So thank you so much for joining me in these conversations about storytelling. I really do believe that storytelling, story exploring, story writing, it's really good for the soul. And God can meet you in your story, which is still being written. And my prayer for you is that your story is a beautiful thing. Your life is a beautiful thing. I would love to hear any thoughts you might have regarding all this. Leave a comment here. Write me at coaching@getyourbusinessdone.com. Subscribe to my YouTube channel or my email list. I'd love to keep in touch. And if I can serve you in any way, please reach out to me. Again, at coaching@getyourbusinessdone.com. And we will see you on the flippity flip. Take care now, and bye-bye, and thank you.